Welcome to the Top Dog Mindset Podcast, where we unlock the secrets of running a successful dog training business. I'm your host, Kevin, joined by my co-host, Angel. Together, we bring you expert insights, inspiring stories, and practical tips. Whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting out, we're here to provide you with the necessary information to build a thriving dog training company. So relax, join us with a cup of coffee as we explore the Top Dog Mindset Podcast. All right, welcome back, everybody. Kevin and Angel here with another podcast for you guys. And today we got something pretty cool and interesting, at least for me. This is something I've been wanting to talk about for quite some time, because I think this is the type of stuff that's going to be a little bit heady, but actually very, very beneficial for your business if you can kind of take this stuff to heart and try and implement it. At least I know it was for me. What we're going to be talking about today is the idea of the mindset that you kind of need to operate with to run your business and be effective and stuff like that. So just to kind of kick this off, I read a book a couple of years ago. I'm sure a lot of you guys may have read this as well. So it's Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. And so I'll kind of talk a little bit about that, who he was, and why this book is so profound historically. But just to kind of start this off, what we're going to kind of be talking about on this call here, I have this written down. So your business will only grow to the level you can mentally and emotionally handle. It's not about tactics or timing. It's about mastering your mind, your emotions, your reactions. This is about choosing discipline over impulse, clarity over chaos, and action over excuses. So let's talk about who Marcus Aurelius was. So he's regarded as one of the greatest emperors of Rome, and simultaneously one of the most prolific philosophers of all time. So just somebody who operated at an unbelievably high level. So Meditations, the book that's like readily available to all of us, I recommend that everybody go read this, is his private journal. It was written as a series of personal reflections during his time as Roman emperor. It wasn't meant to be published. It was just his way of keeping himself grounded in Stoic philosophy while managing the chaos of ruling an entire empire. So think about that. Like if you think about how difficult it can be on a day-to-day basis just to manage your business and run your business, this is coming straight from somebody who was running one of the most impressive and long-lasting empires of all time. So let's jump into it here. So the first thing we're going to kind of talk about is some of the core themes. So Angel, I want to hear your thoughts on this too, but the first one is going to be control what you can, accept what you can't. You can't control other people or events, only your thoughts, actions, and responses. So give me your initial gut reaction to that and what you think about that.
I feel like this is one of those quotes that kind of seem cliche because everyone says it, but it's also one of my favorites. Mm-hmm. I feel like this quote specifically is something that really made an impact on me. This is one of those things that I just constantly say in the back of my head. And I think we went into this a little bit during our in-person podcast, but this is essentially what helped me change my mindset on a lot of things. And like I said, I think it can, because of how often it's used, it can come off as being a little bit cliche, but it's true. But yeah, I love this.
Yeah. Here's the thing. Everything that is cliche in today's world it only seems obvious and cliche now because we've had so much time to sit with it and it becomes so undeniably, objectively true, you know?
Yeah.
But there's things throughout history that weren't well understood. They weren't just a given that that's the way that we operated in society and stuff like that and the way that people thought. And so it's easy to look back on and be like, oh, that's so obvious or that's such a cliche. It's well, it wasn't. This is actually one of the most profound ideas at the time, you know?
Yeah, and this really just explains that you are in control of, what kind of stuff is taken up in your brain. Do you want all of these stressors about I don't know, anything going on in your business or a crappy lead that comes in or a client who is difficult to deal with, rather than complaining about it and just kind of dwelling on it constantly. That's not something you can control. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, something that I found so interesting, you referenced that one of the last podcasts that we did, how you were talking about there, how you are a very different person than you were even years back, 10 years ago, right?
Yeah.
And it seems I don't want to paint the picture that you were a lunatic or anything like that, but
I was psychotic. I'm just kidding.
But you just seem to have the thing that I find so interesting about you, and I've always really appreciated about you is that you never lose your temper, you never really lose your cool. Even in situations that are very stressful, you don't
Mm-hmm.
seem to get stressed out. So I think that
Yeah.
that's kind of like what we're talking about with this first point here, where it's like control what you can, accept what you can. I think a lot of times it's so easy to go through life trying to control every little event or thing, or yeah, just like anything that anybody else thinks about us or says about us, or the way that things may unfold in your business, or you're having a good month or a slow month. But there's things that you can work on, and there's things that you can do to progress in life, but there's things that are just outside of your control. And so,
Yeah.
like, how did you kind of like arrive at that conclusion? Like, what was it for you, and like what did you find to be like very helpful in actually implementing that in your life?
Um, well, to give a little bit of context, I was just like a very like stressy person. I
Hmm.
would like stress out over everything, the smallest things. I was like the definition of I would sweat the small stuff.
Yeah.
I would get like upset really easily. I was just like easily triggered by things.
Hmm.
And I would get into like especially like things that I have absolutely zero control over. I would just almost feel like I cannot get on with my day. I cannot like think another thought because I'm just like so hyper focused on overthinking about all these other little things that are causing me anxiety and stress and anger and all that kind of stuff, like terrible stress management.
Hmm.
And it was affecting me in so many different ways. And like I have kids and it just got to a point where I'm like, I don't like being like this. Not that I enjoyed being like that before, but I just had this realization where I'm like, I don't like being like this. And also this, like these particular things that I'm stressing over right now, I have zero control over it. This has to do with another person. I have zero control over that person. They have their own problems. That's why they're acting the way that they're acting. And I am allowing them to affect me in a way where I'm literally just sitting here and I can't like be productive in my own life because it's taking up so much space in my brain. And
Yeah.
like, yeah. And I'm like, so I just had this realization of like I was allowing so many other outside factors that I had zero control over take control of me, like
Yeah.
mentally and emotionally, and got to a point where it felt like it was affecting me physically. And so I started having a very like I don't want to say like a careless attitude because I feel like that could not be good in some ways too. Like I absolutely did care, but it was more so like caring more about me, caring more about like my well-being and like setting boundaries and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And not necessarily like I mean it was like setting boundaries with people, but also setting boundaries for, my own mental health
Yeah.
basically. I'm
Totally.
setting boundaries on not allowing that thing to affect me, or I'm setting boundaries on, I am going to stop, I don't know, responding to this person or having this conversation because I know I'm going to allow it to affect me mentally or whatever. It was a constant, like, conscious thought that I would have to have. It wasn't just like a mindset shift just like that. I would literally have to think about these things on a daily basis for years, but I started realizing like how liberating it felt to
Yeah.
be more like unbothered.
Yeah.
And yeah, that went on for years and it's basically just like the new norm
That's
and I
awesome.
love it.
Yeah. That's awesome. So here's the thing. Some of these core themes I'm just going to rattle through here real quick are just kind of like ideas that like are in this book, but I
Mm-hmm.
really want to stick to more so like the core premise of like what this conversation is all about. So the first one is obviously we just covered there, control what you can, accept what you can't. The second thing is, live with virtue and integrity, do the right thing, even if it's hard. That's something that is very, very, it's easy to say, hard to kind of execute on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Life is short. Don't waste time on distractions, drama. That's a big one. Don't waste time on drama. I would say that for all of us. It's so
Mm-hmm.
easy to get wrapped up in things that are just not worth your time or waiting to start. That's another big one too for your business. Like having great ideas, but just like being very slow to implement them, Set a timetable for yourself and get it done quickly. The next thing, suffering comes from your judgment, not reality. So this is something I always think about too, which is exactly what I said before to you. Like just because you're in a stressful situation doesn't mean you need to be stressed.
Mm-hmm.
That seems very counterintuitive, but like you are being an active participant in your emotions. Like you have you have a say over them. You can decide whether or not like you want to feel a certain way. If you want to be angry, if you want to be anxious, like you can you it's not that you have full control over that, but it's like just giving the idea that you have zero control of it away and being like, hey, I just feel the way I feel is not fully accurate as well. The last thing here is be present and purposeful. So don't dwell on the past or fear the future. Focus on doing good now. So let's talk about the main thing which we want to talk about for today, which is you have power over your mind, not outside events. So realize this and you'll find strength. So the first thing is most people lose because they're trying to control everything that they can, right? Like the algorithm or their clients, the way that their clients, like this is a big one, people not doing the work that they get assigned to them or not doing their homework in between sessions and stuff like that. Maybe there's like a downturn in the economy, right? And this can really rattle people and make people feel like everything's coming to an end here, or they just get burned out with working for people because they're just sick of like clients not doing their homework and stuff like that. So the thing we have written down here is the shift happens when you stop looking out there and start mastering what's inside. So you can't control what other people are going to do, but what you can do is try and like implement new systems and processes to try and make things more functional, right? Yeah. We've talked about this on other podcasts, like the idea of what worked in 2019 may not be working in 2025. So stop like running into a brick wall and trying to force a square peg in a round hole.
Yeah, exactly. I think this is a really good one because this is something that like we hear very often. Which I think for us is normal. Like people vent to us about this kind of stuff. But yeah, like you said, like what wasn't working then or what was working then might not work now. But even like with the now stuff, rather than having kind of like that mentality, basically total opposite of what we're trying to get across here of like, well, yeah, but like they're not doing their homework, or yeah, but you know, these are all tire kicker leads, or yeah, but they're not calling me back kind of thing. Yeah. Like that's kind of like the question that I always have in my head is like, okay, well, that's not working, so do something different.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's kind of like the bottom line. We could sit here and like complain about these things all day, and I get that it's frustrating. Totally understand that it's frustrating when clients aren't doing their homework, and we could, you know, just like vent about it all day or kind of talk crap about it all day, but it's not changing what is actually going on. So if they're not doing homework, okay, so let's do something different on your end. You know what I mean? And like something like that very particular situation, because I've dealt with it before. Like I get it. It's frustrating. It makes you feel like obviously the dog isn't getting anywhere, but you as a trainer, or me at least, I feel like I couldn't help but take that personal because like I'm coming to you to try to train your dog and get this finished result. And the owner, the client, is the one that's pretty much like holding that up. Essentially what I did was like, instead of just doing these repeat lessons like once every week, I would kind of tell clients right off the bat, like the idea is for us to do a lesson every 1 to 2 weeks, depending on how well you're able to, you know, maintain doing your homework in between then and schedules and all that kind of stuff. But I would check in with clients. I started checking in with clients in between lessons, which I know is more work, but you know, you just got to do it. I would check in with clients in between lessons, like right before the next lesson. I would check in. Hey, how are things going? How is Fido doing with this, this, and this? How's homework going? If they say like, oh, it's going okay, I really haven't been able to work on anything though because I've been sick. Okay, we're canceling that lesson and we'll reschedule. I wouldn't necessarily say like, wow, how dare you? You're not doing your homework. I'm forfeiting your lesson. But I would just say like, okay, let's push your lesson out to the following week so we can give you enough time to work on that homework to make sure we're staying on track. So that was a change that I made. And it helped tremendously with holding people accountable because then they know like, okay, she's not coming out even for the next lesson unless I do my homework on the one before. So it's just like making little changes like that for like really any situation in your business. Like you just have to adapt and overcome to the changes going on within your business and with your clients and society pretty much.
Totally. You know, I think what I really want to get across in this call too is like when I think back on my career thus far and journey and starting different businesses and you know, just running businesses and stuff like that, is the moment that things really started to click for me was the moment where I kind of like truly came to terms with the fact that nobody was coming to save me. Nobody was coming to do it for me. And, you know, there's a lot of anxiety that can come along with that idea, but it's also very freeing as well. Because when you realize that like you're the one who's fully in control of your destiny and what you're able to build and stuff like that, it's very freeing if you can master your mind, right? And I'm not saying I'm perfectly mastered my mind, like I'm like a Shaolin monk or something like that. But the truth is like what I'm really trying to get at here is like there's a lot of people that just like they lack mental grit or mental discipline or mental toughness, whatever you want to call it. And so that can manifest in many different ways. So one example could be they get a lead and they go and drive to meet that person and do a consultation and they don't buy. And they go, screw this sucks, doesn't work. People are just going to waste your time. They just want free information. And they just totally abandon the idea, right? And then because of that, it sets these wheels in motion where they go, nobody wants to really train. No one's serious about training their dog. No one in my market wants to pay that amount of money. And so it snowballs. And this is an extreme example. Like usually this happens, it creeps in over a longer period of time. Maybe you do a couple or something like that. But I have seen this happen where somebody does one and they're like, this doesn't work. But you know, what can happen is it snowballs. And so all of a sudden you go from being excited to start this business, hitting one little speed bump, and then that sets this ball in motion where everything else is just not going to work because of that. So you stop doing consultations and now you're definitely not going to make sales. You're going to really struggle to make sales because you started a new business. Nobody has any clue who you are. No, you have no social proof. You have no credibility on social media. And so what happens is a month goes by, there's no sales, 2 months goes by. And then all of a sudden you have to start evaluating, being like, do I need to go get a job? And then you close down the business and you go like, I got screwed. It's the area that I'm in. Nobody wants to work hard. Nobody wants to pay money for this, blah, 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 blah. And it's all just because you didn't necessarily have like the grit or the mental toughness in the beginning to be like, I'm willing to take a lot of abuse here. I'm willing to take a lot of no's. I can't express this enough. I'm not trying to pat myself on the back, but when I started this company, nobody knew me. And you know, I'm not saying everybody knows me now, but the truth is like I sat down with effectively zero credibility, just like a dream of like what I could build and what I thought I could do for people. And I just started messaging people and I had people laugh at me. I had people be like, dude, you think this is going to work? This is like the lamest thing in the world. Like, get the hell out of my inbox. You know, like I can like show screenshots of stuff like that. And I just think that like most people don't understand that you're going to have to face a lot of rejection. There's going to be things that happen along the way. Like there's going to be some momentum in your business and then you're going to get a cancellation and then you're going to get another one. And it's going to feel like, holy shit, this whole thing is like totally falling apart. Right. Yeah. Or you're going to have a dog get really sick in your care and you're going to have to pay the vet bills. There's a litany of things that everybody's going to have to deal with in their business. But the thing is like, that's where most people stop. That's why most people pack it in and just say like, this doesn't work. I don't want to do this. You know, it's too hard. The clients don't want to, you know, everything I've said already, right? Like the clients don't want to work hard, all that stuff. But the people who are going to be successful are the people who have like discipline and they don't go off of like day to day or hour to hour emotion. They operate off of like true data. They operate off of, like empirical evidence that like, if I do this, this is going to work for me. So Angel, what are your thoughts on that? Because you do so much coaching. I'm sure you've seen people that you're like astounded by, like the abuse they can take, for lack of a better term. And you've had people that you probably thought were going to be really good and really talented. And then at the slightest like little, speed bump, they kind of like completely unravel.
Yeah, well, it's all about like investing in yourself and investing in your business. But you brought something up about like people getting to a point where they're like, oh, I just feel like I need to shut things down and get like, a regular like 9-to-5 job.
Yeah.
So I want to share a story that I think I told you about yesterday, but about one of our clients who months ago, maybe even like a year ago or something at this point, he was struggling in his business and really like struggling on the sales side, talking to people, getting people to like schedule consults and stuff like that. And he got to a point where he didn't shut his business down, but he did look for a part-time job. And so he was doing both a part-time job and then still running his business. This part-time job was for, it was a position of like answering the phone, And it was not a dog training business. It was like a completely different field. But he was like answering the phone, following up with people, and basically handling their leads for whatever their service business was. And now today he's doing amazing, and his average numbers per month have increased in comparison to last year. And I asked him what he thinks the difference has been made, and he said ever since he got this part-time job, and I'm not telling anyone like you need to go out and get another job, but for him he was an employee for another company where he had to answer the phone, he had to follow up with leads, he had to take care of all of their leads. And he was like, I realized like when I was made to do that as an employee and get paid for it, and realize like how important it is for these people to like answer the phone call for their leads and reach out to them. Like he was like, these people are like ruthless with follow-ups. Like they don't care if they are being annoying. They're still going to keep calling people back. He's like, but I had no choice because I was hired on as an employee and I was just doing what I was told. But I decided to take all of that into my own business, and now he's doing so much better. He's answering the phone. He's being ruthless about following up with people instead of like, I missed the call, but I did text them back. I haven't heard from them. You know what I mean? Like he is calling them multiple times until he can get a hold of someone and selling them on the consultation. And so I think it was just like he was hired on for another company, again, different service, but pretty much made to do the same things he was supposed to be doing in his business. It's just different because you're an employee and you're being told to do those things.
Yeah.
Versus like as a business owner, it requires so much more discipline. But it was really interesting hearing him say that.
Yeah. I mean, so I'm so glad you brought this up, because you and I talked about this for like 15 minutes yesterday, and I thought this was really eye-opening to me, and I kind of had this thought of everything that you just said. And what I said to you was, most people are never really shown the way, and most people are never really they never have a standard set for them, so they have to set their own standard. Like if you start your own business and you went to dog training school, or maybe you were in a completely different career path altogether, and you're like, I love training dogs, I know how to do it, I'm gonna start my own dog training business. But you worked in like the finance department or something like that, right? Yeah, you're gonna understand how to like manage money in your business and stuff like that, but sales is the entire engine that drives your business. So if your standard is just like some arbitrary one that you set, to your point from before of, yeah, I missed the call, I texted them and they didn't get back to me, they're not a real lead, they're not gonna like sign up. There are people like in industries out there, like if you were to say your prior career was like you were a salesperson for Goldman Sachs, you'd be calling leads from 3 years ago, and they'd be having you sit at your desk dialing nonstop. Not like, hey, make a couple calls today, see if you can touch base. It's like, no, you're gonna literally sit down from 8 in the morning until 8 at night and dial, and you're gonna probably call somebody 10 times, and they're gonna finally pick up. And they may be a little bit angry at you, but you're going to push through that conversation, and you're going to start talking to them about their investment strategy, or for you, your dog training business or something like that. So the truth is like, it's all about what the standard is. And so for this client, super great guy. And I just think it's so fascinating because the level that he was operating at was like what he thought was going to be required to get it done. But then he just had his eyes open to this other way of doing it. And now all of a sudden his business is taking off. So I think that this kind of really ties in well here, because it's like, don't just throw your hands up in the air and just be like, man, nobody's answering their phone, or, nobody wants to buy. It's like, no, there's a deficit of knowledge here. There's a deficit of a skill set here. And the thing you should always keep in mind and think about is like, are there people around me who are doing extremely well? Love them or hate them, right? Like companies, like I'm not even going to name anybody, but like bigger box retail dog training companies, right? Like love them or hate them, love their training, hate their training. It doesn't matter. Like if they're in your area, they're probably doing very well. And so if they're doing well, you need to be asking the questions of what are they doing that's resulting in them getting all the business, the lion's share of the business,
Yeah, and like you mentioned, it's like a lack of skill set. I think having the skill set is important, but I also think just being open-minded also. Like even if you don't have the skill set, being open-minded to the fact that like there are other dog trainers, other dog training businesses, even some that might be, really close to you who are doing it and they're figuring it out, and they're open to figuring out what do I need to do to make sure that I'm able to get in touch with this lead or get them in for a consult or sell them or whatever it is. So even if you don't have the skill set, I think just being open-minded about learning that or making change in your business is the most important thing.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Being open-minded, and I think that ties in too with like the mental toughness thing. Like it's not easy to sit down if you don't give a shit about sales and sales trainings to sit down and watch one for an hour or spend your hard-earned money to invest in somebody teaching you how to do it. It's like that's not an easy thing to do. It's not a fun thing to do. But if you want the business of your dreams, like it's the stuff that's required of you. And I think that that's really the core theme here, where it's like, don't do what you want to do what is required of you. And that is a good motto for life in general. Like these are core themes through so many different stories. It's in religion. It's like, it's not about constantly feeling good. It's sometimes about sacrifice. And something that I'll say, and I don't mean to sound too harsh by saying this, but sometimes I am astounded when I talk to people and I audit their schedule with them and they think that they're working hard, but I'm like, what did you do? What did you do this week? These are typically people that we don't work with, but we look at their schedule and it's like, how many consultations did you do this week? Well, I actually didn't do any consults. I have one client though, or I have some clients I'm working with. Okay, well, how often did you meet with them this week? I met with them on Thursday. So it's like you did 0 consultations. You did 1 lesson and you're complaining that you don't have time, so like that is a bizarre thing. So audit your time, and be ruthless about where you put it. It's not just all about like, if you want to just like have a job and be a dog trainer, go do that. I'm not trying to like talk down to you whatsoever, but I'm talking to the people who actually want to have a dog training business, actually want to grow something for themselves, their family, other people in their community, their friends, like all that stuff. If you truly want to do that, but you're spending your days like fucking off, pardon my French, like doing God knows what, you need to like, it's kind of like shame on you. Like don't point the finger and blame anybody else other than yourself. Like audit your time, and you should be doing nothing other than trying to drum up business every single day if you don't have business.
Exactly. Make your time more productive. If you are an employee of a company, you have a time that you need to be there, a time that you need to work for. You have tasks that you need to do during those times. You have your lunch break. On your lunch break, you can fuck off and go eat or whatever for the hour. And then you come back and you do these other tasks that you are required to do for your job. It's the same thing. Block out time if you need to be productive. I was on a coaching call for 7FA, I think last week, and there was a guy on there who owns a very successful company. It's like roofing or construction or something like that. But he talked a lot about this to so many other people that were on the call about how important it is to structure out your day. And like he shared his screen to show us his schedule, and you could literally see there's a time blocked out each day for when he goes to the gym. And he is literally at the gym until this exact time. And then after that, like he eats breakfast and then he sits down completely uninterrupted to like get back to any emails or phone calls or whatever. Like every part of his day is scheduled. And that's how everyone else's should be for, if you're running a business, and like here specifically a dog training business, obviously you have things on your schedule as far as like evals and lessons and drop-offs and whatnot, but like schedule time out for yourself, schedule time out to handle like admin stuff. If you need to like catch up on messages and social media, or if you need to, take a look at all of your new clients who just signed on and make sure like all the boxes are checked for them. Schedule this stuff out.
Yeah, super, super well said. Jocko Willink says discipline equals freedom. And I think that is the most true thing. It feels counterintuitive. It feels like if I block out every single minute on my schedule, when am I ever going to have time to like be free just to do what I want? It's like, ironically, if you do that, you could literally block out an hour to just sit and scroll on TikTok if you wanted to,
Exactly.
Not that I would encourage you to do that, but you could do that with your time. And what you would probably realize is like, I don't want to do that. But when you just leave your calendar open and you just leave yourself to your own devices and there's nobody overseeing you because it's your business, and nobody really gives a shit because it's your business. And if you don't make money, it doesn't really matter, right? It's like, it doesn't affect other people. It only affects other people when you start being able to be productive and help other people. So like, if you just use your time wisely and book things out, like, hey, I'm going to wake up at 7 a.m. and I'm going to, do whatever you need to do, like with your own dogs, right? And then I'm going to be at Home Depot demoing with one of my dogs from 8:30 until 10 o'clock. And then I'm going to go and hand out flyers. And then I'm going to go and check my email to see if anybody messaged me, and then I have my lesson at this time. Like, block out your day. If you're not intentional with your time, it's just going to get away from you.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you know what I want to say this too, like going back to the standard that's set is like somebody showed him, that guy, at one point, like, this is how you conduct business. This is how you conduct your day. It's like he may have arrived at that conclusion himself, like over years of doing it and never had any mentorship. But if he's in 7FA, clearly he had more mentorship,
Yeah.
You're never going to get to a point where you have a 6-figure business or a 7-figure business if you just kind of are like waking up and, okay, there's nothing on the schedule today. I guess I'll just kind of like see what happens today,
Yeah. Or like you go eat breakfast and then you're like, I'll spend 30 minutes in breakfast, but then you're like eating breakfast, you get on your phone, next thing you know, it's been like an hour and a half because you're not on a schedule, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So yeah, definitely like being more intentional and productive with your time, even if you do need to schedule out, like, I'm going to take a break here, or I am going to just lay down and do absolutely nothing here, or call my mom here. Yeah. Like, schedule all of that out.
Yeah, totally. All of this comes back to discipline and mental toughness. Again, it's not something that is easy to do. Setting a schedule for yourself is one thing, but that even in and of itself is hard to do. It's like, sit down and use the brain power to think about what you're going to do with Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Like, it's easy to think like, oh, that's a good idea, but it's another thing putting it into practice. And then from there on out, it's like, are you actually going to stick to the schedule? Like, that's another thing. There's so many of us that, like, there's a reason why being a business owner, being an entrepreneur is something that, like, most people don't do, is because there's nobody coming to save you, and you need to figure it out on your own. And there's nobody like watching over you. Think of it that way. If you audit your time and think about, like, if I had a boss who was running a productive company, would he be happy with the way that I spent my time today? Like, would he be or she be cool if they knew that, like, I woke up late, I just scrolled on TikTok, I maybe worked dogs for not as long as I should have, and I didn't do any marketing? Or would they be like, you're fired, you're done, this is not going to cut it, So think about it in that regard. It's like, who would you want your employee to be? If you hired somebody in your business to do what you were doing, how would you expect them to operate? What would you want them to be doing,
Yeah, exactly. And it also goes the other way too, because you said, like, if you set yourself a schedule, are you actually going to stick to it? Yeah. So on the other hand too, like, if you, let's say, put in a lunch break or something like that, or put in like just any type of break, and you work through it and you're constantly working through things, like, maybe you're getting shit done, but then a couple weeks later, a couple months later, you're like, shit, I'm like starting to get burnt out because I never get a break, because I never take a break to eat lunch, or I never, do this or that. I'm just like, just going through it. Like, that is just as important, because if you're not taking care of yourself, then shit in your business is going to start going down the drain too.
Yeah. Totally. Well, listen, we're going to wrap it up here, but the last thing I want to leave everybody with is this quote that I always think about is, everything that you could possibly ever want is on the other side of the stuff that you are currently avoiding doing. So, like, really let that sink in and think about that. It's like, if you are serious about growing a business, if you're serious about, like, let's even just like put aside the whole thing of like growing a business, because that can even be something that's like self-aggrandizing and self-serving if you use it in that way. But if you're a dog trainer and you say things like, I really want to make the industry a better place, I really want to save more dogs, right? I really want to help more people. List any number of things that you say that you actually want, right? If you're not doing things to take steps towards that, like every single day, think about like the injustice that you are actually doing to the people that you're saying you actually want to help. Like, you can't get out of bed. And so there's people out there that are, now not going to get the help because you couldn't get out of your own way, right? Mm-hmm. Or, without sounding too like black-pilled here, it's like, there are like, think of it this way, like, there are dogs out there who need your help, and because you don't market yourself, they can't find you. And now that dog, like, literally may get euthanized just because, like, you didn't want to do the things that you didn't do the things that you just didn't want to do, So
it's the butterfly effect.
It is.
You didn't get out of bed and then a dog died.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds so cruel, but it's like kind of the truth, you know?
Yeah.
It's like I think about that, like the people that like, hey, maybe I could have done more. Maybe I could have like, created a piece of content or something like that that would have reached that person, and then like they wouldn't have given up on their dream to like build their business, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Not that you want to be like totally doomsday and think like it's on me to save the world and everybody and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
Don't go
But
down
the
a rabbit hole.
Yeah, but the truth is like if those are more so what I'm saying is like if those are things that you say frequently, like I just want to help dogs, it's like by you not marketing, you are doing the complete opposite of what you say you actually want to do.
Yeah.
All right, so I'll get off my soapbox here and we can wrap this one up because we got to record a second podcast episode today. So I hope you guys like this one. This is a little bit different. This is something that Angel and I were talking about doing last week, but we kind of saved it for this episode. So as always, I appreciate you guys listening, appreciate all the support. If there's anybody that you feel like could really benefit from listening to this podcast, do us a favor, give us a share, tell a friend about us and stuff like that. And we appreciate you guys as always, and we'll see you guys very soon in the next one. See you guys.
Bye, guys.